Well, hey there. You're listening to the DIY Marketing School podcast. I'm your host and your marketing coach, Melanie Diane Howe. And today I'm taking you behind the scenes and I'm going to share with you my personal project management system. Oh, I've got a doozy for you guys today. I am going to lift up the hood and let you see how my system is built. And when I say my system, I'm actually, if you could see me, you'd see that I'm throwing up some air quotes. But this is my system for planning my projects and how I manage my tasks. The buzzword here is project management. Now, I'll give you a little bit of background. I am really passionate about project management. Before I started my business and went on my own, I essentially was an account manager, so I managed strategic accounts, but I was a project manager. I absolutely had to be very into project management, and I learned very early in my corporate career how passionate I was about project management, and it kind of just happened. I mean, to get the work done, I had to be a good project manager, and in order to be efficient and work on these huge projects and accounts, I just kind of had to create systems and learn systems. And so project management became very much a passion for me. And I was in corporate for about 12 years before I started my business. So when I started my business, I very much carried over that project management aspect into my own business, but also in working with a lot of my clients, I have actually found myself many times training or teaching my small business clients how to, create a system or project manage their stuff. And a lot of times I find that a lot of small businesses and even entrepreneurs, they don't really have a system. I mean, other than just writing some things down on a piece of paper or Post-it notes all over their computer or all over their wall, many times they don't have a system. And it's not because they're not smart. It's just because they're still small and pretty agile. But as you start to scale and grow, whether it be do more or add more people to your mix that help you get things done, it becomes very critical that you have a system in place. And so I really love helping people and working with people. It's just another area that I just found that I was super passionate about is this project management and helping others implement project management into their business. And it helps them. I mean, it just becomes, their processes become so much more efficient. And this is just, like I said, it's really critical when you want to scale and do more with your business, but it's really critical if you want to get help. So if you want people to help you get things done, whether it be you're hiring a virtual assistant, a freelancer, an intern, or even full-time staff members, you can get by, but you can get by a lot better if you can create a system. And so today, what I thought I would do, because I do get asked this question a lot, what is your system? Or, I find myself in these discussions quite a bit. And I do find that a lot of people, I think, they can gain a lot from implementing a system. Now, I'm going to share with you my system for planning projects or ideas, and then also putting them into an actual project management kind of system. And I am holding up air quotes right now. So if you could see me, I would be air quoting when I say system, because I'm going to go ahead and preface that I actually use a combination of online apps and offline methods. And I'll share it with you. You'll understand it. But here's what I'm going to say. This is a system that works for me. And I'll tell you a little bit about me and my personality. So I am literally equally left-brained and right-brained, left-brained, right-brained. I'm not sure if that's how you say that, but you know what I mean. Basically what it means is I am very much a visionary. I can be a very creative person, but then I'm also a very analytical, process-oriented person as well. And there are times when those two things don't go together, as you can imagine. So sometimes I have to put myself into one mindset when I am trying to be a visionary and brainstorm, and I have to use a different system when I do that than when I actually am in the mindset of getting it done. And so that's part of the reason why I actually use a series of different methods here, which again, I'm going to go through each of these methods. There's basically 4 elements to my system, and I will explain each of them in detail to you. And you can either you can either use my system and try it as I've explained it to you, or you can actually use any piece or part of the system. But overall, there's a process. There is a 4-phase process. And yes, I use a different method for each phase. But what I want you to take home today is the 4 phases of this process. So whether you use one method or 4 methods, at least I want you to take away this process. So I will also simply say this before I kind of roll into this, that this is a system that works for me. I have tried a lot of systems. I'm very passionate, as I said, about project management. It's in my corporate background. I have tried many, many, many apps and technologies. I have tried lots of methods. And so the reason that I have ended up in this method that I'm going to explain to you is because I find bits and pieces that work from different methods. And I have taken each one of these and I'm pulling out what I like best about each method, and I use it the way that it needs to be used in the phase. So that's kind of chaotic and sounds a little weird. And you're probably like, what in the hell are you about to explain to me? But I'm trying to preface this and set the stage that I want you to follow along. I want you to, you can take notes, but I'm also, I've got these 4 phases and these 4 methods in the show notes as well. So if you're driving or you're in the shower right now or you're on the treadmill and you're not in a place to write this down, don't worry. You can keep listening and go back to those show notes and you have these elements. But the reason I wanted to preface is because it is going to sound a little crazy. My method might seem a little crazy to you. So just bear with me and let's just dive in. How about that? So, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to tell you what the 4 phases are before I go into the methods. So the first phase, when you are planning things out. Now, I guess before I go into that, this could be for one single project. It could be for your entire business, like for the, where you want things to go in the next 6 months. It could be maybe you're trying to launch something. It could just, maybe you're even trying to start your business. Maybe you're remodeling a house and you want to use this process for a personal project. That's fine too. But either way, each of those, whether it be one project or whether it be a year's worth of projects, this is the 4 phases that you can use. The first one is brainstorming. Okay, so the first phase is brainstorming. You need to let your creative mind be creative without the noise of the analysis or risk assessing or anything like that, and go ahead and just get ideas out there. Now, you can do this by yourself if you're kind of a solopreneur, but if you have a team that you want to be strategically involved, then I would encourage you to brainstorm with your team. And so the first phase is brainstorming, and this is where you just get to throw all the ideas out there and be really creative and crazy. You can dream big, go nuts. Then the next phase is pruning and plotting it out. And what that means is you're actually going to decide what is going to be done. And you're going to also dissect it. And you're going to prune it, meaning you're going to prune away the ideas that are a little bit too crazy for you, or maybe it's not the right time. So you pick your projects and then you're going to plot it out. So this is where you're actually going to plot out all the different tasks and even maybe phases that need to get done in order for that project to get completed. And again, this could be one project or multiple projects, but either way, you have the second phase is plotting it out. So being very specific in the tasks, getting all the tasks that you know of and plotting it out. You can even, if you're able, go ahead and create a timeline while you're plotting it out too. So you're plotting and planning. And this is where you're going to, again, have all the tasks and you maybe even put them in order, or you actually create timelines and assign them to people. The third phase is actually the first part of what I like to call GSD, getting stuff done. So you are actually going to take the tasks, and it's by week, and it's, okay, what are this week's tasks? What am I getting done this week? And then the fourth phase and element is actually the daily aspect of it. So while you might have a week's worth of tasks, you're not going to do all those tasks on Monday. You're actually going to have different days where you do different things. And so there's brainstorming. So you're really, really, really high level. And then you plot it out. You get really, really detailed. And then you start getting it done. But you look at the week's worth of tasks. And then the fourth phase or element is the daily aspect. So what am I getting done today, no matter what? So those are the four kind of, I guess, elements or phases in my strategy. So now let's talk about how I actually get this done. So when I do brainstorming, I actually love to use, I love whiteboarding. So a lot of times I like to just get stuff on a whiteboard, right? But what I also find is that a whiteboard is only as good, it only works for you if you're in front of your whiteboard. And since I tend to work from home sometimes, I work off site sometimes, I'm in my office. I actually have an office that I lease out. I'm in there sometimes. I need an app that I can access no matter where I am. And so, because these ideas can kind of hit me, crazy times and whatnot. So I love to use an app, and I've talked about it on the podcast before. It's called Trello, and I will link to it in the show notes. Trello. So it's Trello. I love using Trello for brainstorming. The reason I like to use Trello for brainstorming is because of just how fluid and flexible it is. And so you can you create what's called a board, and your board could be, 2020 project planning or 2020 vision, whatever you want it to be. And then you create lists, okay? And each list could be an aspect of your business. One list could be marketing. One list could be products. Another list could be, events and conferences, however you want to categorize all these things. And so then you make what are called cards, and the cards go in the lists, and you can see all the lists and you can see all the cards all in one place. So it's kind of like using Post-it notes. I mean, it's really, each card is like a Post-it note, and you can actually move them around very easily. You just drag and drop them. So the reason I like Trello is because a lot of times when I am brainstorming or trying to do some visionary work or visualizing things, really trying to just let my mind wander, one of the things that I run into, and again, this is that equally left brain, right brain thing going on. If I try to start writing this down in a notebook or in a Word document even, I get hung up on the structure. Okay, so I will, you start typing and then you're like, oh crap, I changed my mind. That actually should go with this stuff. And then you're copying and cutting and pasting and moving. And if you're writing in a notebook, well, you're just screwed. I mean, you're just scribbling or drawing arrows. And this part of the process for me, it hangs me up. And so that may not be you, but I actually tend to start to try to structure things as I'm doing that creative brainstorming. And so the reason I like Trello is because I'm actually able to rearrange my thoughts. I can rearrange my ideas. So I may start out with a list that says marketing and have a whole bunch of ideas in there. Well, then I may realize 2 or 3 of those ideas actually belong in their own category, their own initiative. And so then I just created a list and I just drag the cards over there. So I just like it. That's one of the major reasons why I like Trello. Plus, you can put your ideas on cards and then you can add content to them. Because here's the thing, when you brainstorm, when you're done with that brainstorming session, you need to walk away from it, come back to it, and revisit it a couple of times before you truly decide what's going to happen or how things are going to get done. You may need to go do some budgeting. You may need to go do some research before you can really decide on what's going to happen. And so what I like about Trello is you can add notes and comments and links and images and videos even. And if you're collaborating with others, then you can each comment on the card. So let's say you're planning with your team and you all create this Trello board. Well, then you all walk away. But then let's say Katie, for example, is assigned to doing some research on, something that you guys decided on. And she comes back and she comments on the card. She's like, this is what I found. Here's a great article. Check it out. Well, then now you and your whole team can see what Katie found out. And just like that, instead of having to wait to regroup and get into a meeting again. So I really like the collaboration aspect of Trello boards as well. But it can work for you even if you're not working with other people. So I love Trello. It's definitely the app that I choose when I am brainstorming. If I'm outlining anything at all, it is the place I start. So again, Trello, check it out. Okay, the next phase is planning and plotting. And so this is where we decide, okay, I've got all these ideas. What am I actually going to do? And what is going to come first? So there are people that will literally plan out their entire year in a session or in these sessions. And I I personally can't, I don't work that way. I know myself. I know my business. I know the way things work. I need to be a little bit more agile. I can try to plan out a year, but I can tell you right now, it's probably not going to rag out the way that I planned it. And so what I tend to do is I tend to plan about 3 months in advance. I have my vision. Okay. But when I actually do my planning and plotting, for most of the stuff, I will do about 3 months at a time. Now, I will say that for some of my client work, we will actually plot out a whole year's worth of their stuff. And we will there are some clients that we do content for, and we will actually literally plan out the entire year's worth of blog posts and schedule them and everything. And that is so we can work in batches. That just makes us work smarter. But for the most part, when it comes to my stuff, I will do the planning and plotting about 3 months at a time. Sometimes I'll go a little bit further ahead of that, but usually it's about 3 months. You can do whatever works for you. If you want to plan out your whole year and you are able to, great, go for it. I would love for you to be able to do that. But if you're not able to, that's fine. Maybe start with 1 month or 3 months or even 6 months, and it might just be a little bit less overwhelming to you. So the planning and plotting is we are going to decide, okay, what are the items that we're going to work on and when are we going to work on them? So maybe you pick 4 projects that you're going to work on in the next 6 months. Well, which one is going to come first? Are you going to work on all of them at the same time? Or are there dependencies on these projects where, you need to get one done first before you can start the other, et cetera, et cetera. And so think about that, decide the order and how it's all going to happen. And then you need to actually sit down and figure out what is it going to take to get these projects done. And you are going to start outlining the tasks. So the individual tasks. And so let's say you have a really big project and you're working on this huge project and it needs to be broken down into like phases or like just mini projects. So you can go to the task level and then even go to what's called the subtask level. And I actually tend to do this. So for example, in my podcast project, I actually will list out the podcast episodes that I want to record. And then inside each of those podcasts, so each podcast is a task. And then I have subtasks under each podcast episode for things like record it, get the show notes done, get the transcripts done, and get it published on my website. And those are tasks done by mostly me, but I also have a VA, my virtual assistant, Katie. She helps me with these things and does some of these tasks. And so we will a lot of times manage at that subtask level because it belongs inside of that one. So what I'm saying is a task could be a project. So the app that we use for this is Asana. Asana, Asana. I'll link to it in the show notes. The reason I like Asana, now I'm going to tell you, I have used so many different project management apps. And I have researched so many different project management apps. In fact, as Katie's listening to this to help with the transcripts, she's probably laughing because she remembers when she first started working for me many years ago that we did a lot of research and I bounced around with different apps until we landed on Asana and we both fell in love with Asana. And it's truly, in my opinion, of all the apps I've researched and tried to work with, it is the one that it's free. Okay. And here's the deal. A lot of apps are free. Trello's free too, by the way, but they will have paid features. The free version of Asana is about as much, if not more, than almost all of you will ever need. I mean, there is a paid version of Asana that lets you do some stuff, but I am telling you, the free version of Asana is so robust and so value-packed with great features. I don't know that you would need it. If you're in a larger organization, you might want to use the paid version, but that is definitely one of the biggest pieces that I love about it. So I like Asana because you create projects and then you have tasks in there, and then it also will support subtasks. So however you want to organize your stuff, however best works for you, you can just have a bunch of projects with tasks, or you can get really granular with those subtasks. And then what I like is that you can, like I mentioned with Trello, you can actually add notes, comments, pictures, you can attach documents. I mean, it's great. And so you can comment back and forth. So for example, when Katie and I are, I may put a project together and I put a task in there for her and she may have a question for me. Well, she can just ping me inside this task and Asana will notify me via email. I can click the link in my email, go right to the task, and I can respond to her question. Or she can even just comment and say, hey, this is ready for you to review now. Here you go. And then she can reassign a task to me if she wants to. So you can assign tasks to people. You can put due dates. You can look at the tasks on a calendar view as well, which was totally one of the features that I needed, because sometimes I want to see it in a list. Other times I want to see it on a calendar. And a lot of the other apps don't give you the ability to do both. And so I love that about Asana for sure. So, okay. So you're planning and plotting. And again, I use Asana for this. So I try to plan out as much as I can, as far in advance as I can, with as much detail as necessary. Now I'll make a side note about detail. You only need to project manage the level of detail that you need to project manage. So if you're alone, meaning a solopreneur, and you're doing everything, you may not need to get to very granular. For example, record podcast episode, write show notes, transcribe the podcast, publish the podcast to the website, and share it on social media. Those don't all need to be their own tasks. You could probably just make a task that says record podcasts and create show notes, get published. Like, you're going to record it, you're going to do the other stuff, and you know when it's done, and it's done, right? So you may only need to think about, okay, here's the podcast episode and here's when it needs to go live. And that's it. Like, that may be all you need, because well, if it's due next Tuesday, then I'm going to record it in enough time so that I have enough time to get all this stuff done and get it published. You don't need to have all those granular tasks, because someone else doesn't need to know what's going on or needs to know when their part is due. The more people you have involved, typically the more detail you need. But again, you only need to go to the level of detail that you need to go to for your business and your operation. So like I said, if you're a solopreneur, that detail level is probably going to be a little bit higher level than a granular level, like a multi-person team or multi-person operation. So just give it a try, see what you think, kind of think about it. What I like about Asana too is that you can, this is where it's important for the next phase, is you can log in, and there's two things that you can check. One, you can look at, okay, what's due this week or what's coming up next, and you can see your tasks and like what's overdue and what's coming up really soon. You can also, there's an inbox feature. So you just click on the inbox, and it's actually going to kind of like give you this little news feed about what's happened. So tasks that got completed by other people, comments from other people, tasks that were added. It's a really easy way to just log in and see what's going on and what's the latest update. It's fantastic from a project management standpoint. Those are two other features that I really like about Asana that I think differentiates it from other apps. Okay, so the next phase. So first we've brainstormed in Trello. Okay, we've got all our ideas out there. And then we just sat down and we spent either, a full day or a few days or, a few hours, whatever the time you need to plot and plan and plot, meaning we plan out, okay, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to get it done. And then the third aspect is actually where we get it done. So the first two parts of this are very much planning. And then the last two parts, phase 3 and 4, are getting it done. So what I like to do is, now that you know what your tasks are and you have them planned out and you have the schedule, well, then it's time to focus on how you're going to get it done. And so I like to look at things weekly. And what I mean and how I do this is either on a Friday at the end of the week or the very beginning of the week, sometimes Sunday night, sometimes first thing Monday morning. But if I'm ahead of the game, I'll go ahead and look at this on Friday. And then if I need to do it on Sunday or Monday, that's okay too. Either way, I'm going to basically look at my next week. And so I actually use a notebook. So we are going to pen and paper, and I have a spiral bound notebook that I keep with me. It's where I take notes for when I'm with clients or when I'm on the phone or dealing with stuff. But it's also where I actually keep my weekly to-do list, and I call it the weekly GSD list. And what I do is I actually have notes inside. So I will put a paperclip in the notebook, and I will make sure that page is flagged. And so what I do is I sit down and I go through, I look at Asana, and I also think about other things that aren't in Asana, like just random things that are not, they're like, not random, but they're things that came up that are just like that you didn't plan for, because we always have that. And so I will have calling someone back or responding to a voicemail or just things that you need to be like, oh, I got to remember to do that. And you don't need a task in Asana. You just need to write it down because it's getting done this week. So I will actually take a whole page, and I do not allow myself to take more than a page, because if I have more than a page worth of stuff, there ain't no way it's getting done. Like, not happening. In fact, even I kind of know where my limit is, even just on the page. And so I will take that page and I'll write down the tasks I need to get done that week. And then what I do is I actually will put an asterisk next to the really, really, really important ones. So the things that literally, like, the sky is practically going to fall if they don't get done. Or the ones that are giving me the most anxiety, like the things like the kind of those projects that you either don't want to tackle, or the tasks you don't want to tackle that are kind of keeping you up at night. I will actually asterisk those as well. And so I use this process to write down all the stuff for the week. And that's the third aspect. Now, why do I do this? Here's why. If I, now Asana and Trello, both are, they will work on your computer and they will work on your tablet. They will work on your phone. They have excellent mobile apps that go along with them. And I could totally just look at Asana and say, what are my tasks for the week? But the reason I don't do that is because, again, this is me and these are my quirks, but I find that a lot of people share in some of these quirks. So I actually have ADD. Like, I literally was diagnosed as a young adult. I have ADD. And, you know, I struggle with staying on task. I struggle with, like, staying focused. And so the more I need to touch technology, or the more I need to get on a computer, like, if I go get on a computer to get on Asana, I'll get on the computer and I'll see a notification from my email folder, or I'll see something else and I'll get distracted. And then I'll check Facebook for a notification for client pages. And then next thing I know, I'm in my news feed. And then it's like 30 minutes later and I'm like, why did I get on my computer? Or I'll walk away and be like, oh crap, I never looked at my tasks. And so the reason why I put it in the notebook is so that I can remove the distractions of the technology. Because when I go into the technology, sometimes I get a little bit off kilter. By having it in my notebook, I take it with me everywhere. It's in my purse. It goes in my bag when I go to the office. It is always with me. And so if you know me, or you work with me in person, or you have, then you can even say, where's your notebook? And I will probably pull it out and show it to you. So that's what I do for my weekly stuff. And then for the next piece, which is I break it down by day. And when I mean by day is I only mean today. So let's say, you know, Sunday night, I wrote down all the stuff I wanted to get done for the week. And by the way, I should back up a second. On that page, I actually will put all the business stuff at the top. And then at the very bottom, I'll save a little bit of room for some personal things, like, you know, schedule a doctor's appointment for my daughter, or, you know, go to the bank, or whatever it might need to be, or call this person back. I will put those personal to-dos on the bottom of the page as well, but I just keep it separate. Those personal things don't go in Asana. I don't project manage my personal life in Asana, although a few years ago when I remodeled, I did a remodeling project, I totally put it in Asana to just keep myself sane. So now what I do is every day, every morning before I do anything, I sit down and I take an index card and I will look at my list and I will decide, what am I actually going to try to get done today? And I use the keyword try, because it doesn't always go as planned, but I need that extra element of focus. And here's why I do this. Because if I just were to look at my notebook page, well, then I have all this stuff on there and it's noisy and I get distracted, and I actually end up having a harder time picking the things that I want to get done because I have the whole list of things to choose. And so what I do is the reason I write it on an index card, you know, like just one of those little note cards, I write down about 4 to 5, or sometimes more than that. Usually I try to keep it around 4 or 5 tasks that I am definitely going to try to get done that day. And if I, you know, have something that's, again, random, like I have a voicemail that I have from the night before that I need to get back to somebody, I will write that on there too, whether it's in my notebook or not. And so the index card, what this does for me is it allows me to stay even more laser focused and not get distracted and not get, you know, working on something else that I wasn't planning on working on. And so that index card, I will literally, there's a paper clip on the cover of my notebook and I paper clip it to the front of the notebook. So I don't even have to open the notebook. And if I'm kind of, you know, going all over the place, sometimes I just stick that thing in my back pocket that note card goes in my back pocket and it just stays on me all day. And so I do this because it helps me. Like when I sit down, I'm like, okay, it's GSD time. Then I just look at the index card and I don't worry about all the other stuff in my list. So if you can understand the mental aspects, what I'm doing by using these 4 different methods for each phase is I am using each method for what it's best for. Like Trello, it's super flexible. Can I do brainstorming on in Asana? You totally could. I personally just think Trello is really, really friendly for that flexibility. You get to move stuff around. Now, putting it in Asana, here's the crazy thing. Can you use Trello to plan and plot out? You betcha. You totally can. But I find Asana is actually better in how it lists things out and just the way that the system communicates with me from a task management system, that it is such a better tool for that part. So that is why I choose 2 different systems and platforms for those planning phases. Now, going into the GSD phases, I use a notebook for the weekly stuff and I use an index card for the daily stuff because I know how my brain works. I know where I fail. I know what limits me. So I need that flexibility while I'm brainstorming. I need that really great list management calendar system while I'm planning and plotting. And then I need an easy to grab non-technology aspect, pen and paper for what I'm getting done for the week. And I know that I need to plan out what I'm getting done for the week so that I can not have to plan every day. I just want to plan for the week. And then every day I'm only grabbing, a handful of those tasks. And that is so important for me and so critical because I have not done this certain weeks. And I will tell you this, there are many weeks that I don't do this. I start rolling and next thing I know, I'm like, oh my God, I haven't done my system. And it always feels more chaotic to me. Because if I don't sit there and think about, okay, what am I doing for this next week ahead? Well, every day I have to decide what I'm going to work on, meaning like from scratch, not like, it's just I'm creating that small list and then I'm pulling from that small list and making a small list for each day. And the index card helps me just say laser focus and not get distracted by anything else that's on my weekly list. So I know it sounds a little bit like discombobulated, a little funky, but this is a system that has been working for me for quite some time now. And like I said, I have been project managing for a really long time, for 12 years before I started my business, and now 5.5 years being, self-employed. And so I got a lot of experience planning literally $11 million projects to like little tasks like social media management. So, it's all over the board. But just maybe if you feel like you haven't found a system, just use these processes. Okay. Again, brainstorm first. And brainstorm just be really creative, just let yourself go wild, and then plan and plot, and either plan and plot for 3 months, maybe even just 1 month to give it a try. And then as you get better about this and as you need to plan more, you can plan and plot further out. And then every week decide, what am I going to try to get done this week? And then every single day before you start anything, sit down and decide, what am I going to do today? What am I going to try to accomplish today? I don't care if you use 1 system or 4 systems. Either way, these are the 4 steps in the process. And again, those 2, there's the planning phase, which is the first 2, and then there's the GSD phase, which is the second 2. So if anything, I hope that you'll take that and utilize that process, because you've got to let your brain function in the way that it's best functioning while it's in that needed mindset. You really aren't going to be as creative if you're trying to be structured at the same time. And so you have to separate these things into these phases. You're not going to stay focused if you're brainstorming. So you're not going to stay on task if you're also coming up with new ideas, right? And so that's why these things need to be compartmentalized in each of their own elements. So brainstorm, plan and plot, create your weekly list, and then each day decide what's getting done today. And I hope that you enjoy the heck out of marking off, scratching a line through those tasks on your index card and in your weekly list and in Asana, checking it off. And the beautiful part is sometimes when you check off a task in Asana, a little unicorn will fly across your screen. And it's so, so glorious when that happens. So again, I've recapped all this stuff in the show notes so that you wherever you are, that you can go back and you can look at this and you can be like, what the heck did she talk about? All I remember is it was like 4 different systems and it was crazy. And she talked about index cards and some app. I got you. Okay. Check out the show notes. I have outlined each of these phases and I have listed these methods in the show notes for sure. So I would love to know what your thoughts are about this. So if you listen, send me an email at hello@melaniediane.com. I'd love to know what your system is and how you, how do you project manage? Because maybe you've got a new idea that I have not thought of before that maybe even I want to try to implement. So thanks again for being here, you guys. I really appreciate it. I love talking with you about all these things. And I hope that this one was a good, helpful episode. And I hope that it helps you be more efficient and more productive so that you can scale and grow that business and go be freaking awesome. Have a great day, guys.